Lord of the Rings fans have known for months now that Amazon's Rings of Power series is going to be a complete and total disaster, because this is not Middle-earth. This is not the work of J.R.R. Tolkien. This is fan fiction that the showrunners, that the producers, that everybody involved with the creation of Rings of Power, they wanted to make this up. They wanted to make a story up that never actually happened and claim that it's somehow connected to Tolkien. But if it were really connected to Tolkien, don't you think that would be the advertising? Don't you think they would be trying to get fans in by saying, look at how accurate this is to the story. This is the story that you wanted to hear from Tolkien himself. But that's not what they're doing. In fact, at every opportunity, they're doing the complete and total opposite. They're reminding you how disconnected this is from the actual story, from the actual lore, from the actual canon of this mythology. And so it shouldn't come as a surprise when yet another actor is, bragging about how disconnected this story is from the world that Tolkien created. The Lord of the Rings star Sir Lenny Henry applauds Amazon's move away from Tolkien's fair-skinned characters to diverse cast. Because of course, you could have just said, you could have summed up that headline pretty easy. Amazon Rings of Power star Lenny Henry applauds moving away from Tolkien, because that's what they're doing. Inherently, that is what they're doing with Rings of Power. It's not about staying true to Tolkien. It's not about telling his story. It's not about staying true to the world. It's about telling the story they want to tell, regardless of whether it actually happened or not. Spoiler alert, it didn't happen. The Lord of the Rings star Sir Lenny Henry applauds Amazon's move away from Tolkien's fair-skinned characters to diverse cast. Veteran British comedian turned actor Sir Lenny Henry applauds the decision by producers of Lord of the Rings series to create a racially diverse cast. Henry plays Sadoc Burrows, a Harfoot proto-hobbit. Let's stop right there. Harfoots were not the precursors to hobbits. Harfoots were a type of hobbit that did not appear until the Third Age. That is laid out specifically by Tolkien. Yet Amazon wanted hobbits in this story. They wanted hobbit-like characters in this story, so they put them in there. They broke the lore of Tolkien so that they could do this. And then, what do you know? We had to make them racially diverse in Amazon's big budget show, which launches this Friday and which is diverted from both Tolkien's original books and the Hollywood films with their mainly fair-skinned characters. There are dark-skinned characters in Tolkien in Middle-earth. They aren't elves, they aren't dwarves, they aren't hobbits, but they are there. They do exist. Amazon decided they didn't want to tell that story. Amazon decided they wanted to break the lore and they wanted to do whatever they wanted. They wanted to put these characters wherever they wanted instead of telling a story that naturally would have happened with the diverse cast that you were looking for. That's to do with it being the 21st century. People want to see themselves. Of course, if you go back, there's going to be that thing that prevails because the books don't say, although some characters are described as hard-skinned or darker in complexion. But that was then. This is now. And we're telling the story now. You're making up a story to tell now. After decades spent campaigning for greater diversity when he was one of the few black faces on television throughout the 70s and 80s, Henry's relieved that other stars have joined him in speaking out. I don't see anybody in charge of anything that looked like me for a very long time, so that is lonely. You've got all these people now saying the same thing I started saying in 2000, which is the industry needs to change, and can it hurry up, please? Yeah, so I guess that no black people ever read Lord of the Rings before, right? That's what you're telling me. They couldn't see themselves in the story, right? That's why Lord of the Rings has been translated to over 60 languages, has sold like untold millions and millions and millions of copies of this book, because they must not have sold to anybody that looks differently from the characters described in the books, right? That has to be the case in this fantasy world. This is an actor who is literally bragging and applauding the fact that they are breaking canon, that they are moving away from the books, that they're moving away from what Tolkien wrote. And he's not the first one. That's basically what all the press is about. All of the press for these characters, for these actors, actresses, that's what it is. It's not look how close we are to Tolkien's world. It's this from Lenny Henry. It's Sophia Namvet. I'm playing the first black dwarf in Rings of Power. It's Ismael Cruz Cordova talking about being the first elf of color in Lord of the Rings. This is why Lord of the Rings fans know that this is going to be an absolutely unmitigated disaster, because they're not even advertising it as being something connected to Tolkien. We've heard the showrunners here and though, yeah, we go back to the book, but everything that we see, everything that comes out from the cast and from the crew, everyone is telling you the truth. This has nothing to do with Tolkien. This has nothing to do with Lord of the Rings. It's the Lord of the Rings name slapped on a CW fantasy show. And they're going to do whatever they want with this story, regardless of whether it actually happened in Middle-earth or not. This is an abomination. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for watching, everyone. And a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.